What's up, Agents Rock? We have a great topic right now, and it's an important topic because I feel that real estate agents really struggle with their calendar, their day-to-day, and it's important to understand what you need to do on a daily basis for you to really move the needle forward on your business, right? I sound redundant because I say it a lot. You can either choose to be proactive or you can choose to be reactive. And I'm a big believer that as a real estate agent, your day should consist of two things: administrative tasks that eventually at some point you can delegate, and more importantly than anything else, and I believe that your day, 70% to 80% of your day should really be consumed with income producing activities. I've done hundreds of strategy sessions, not only for agents at Signature, but agents outside of our own brokerage, agents at other brokerages. So I know that this is an industry-wide issue. A lot of agents are not running their business like an actual business, like a restaurant, like a gym. That is exactly how you need to run your business. You need to understand what you need to do on a daily basis in order for you to scale up, in order for you to grow. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about a day in the life of a real estate agent. What should that look like? Number one, I believe that the night before you should be looking at your calendar and understanding what needs to be accomplished the following day. So you can prime already your subconscious as you're sleeping. You should be writing down your top 3 priorities for that day. And I'm a big believer that your priorities should always be creating opportunities, right? It should be around prospecting. If your day is full of administrative tasks, how are you going to fill your pipeline? And that's one of the biggest mistakes. I remember when I was in a loan business, back in like 2006, when I was in a mortgage business back then. But when I was in a mortgage business back in 2006, actually it was 2005, I remember it vividly. My manager at the time was a guy named Carlos, and I had a fantastic month of February. And then March, I had 6 closings, 6 loans that closed in February. And then March, I had no closings. And my manager, who at the time was a very good friend of mine, sat with me, and he was also a great mentor, sat with me and he said, "Why do you think you had no closings for the month of March?" I sat there, scratched my head, and I said, because I was focusing on managing those transactions, making sure they closed, and I forgot to prospect. And he said, "So what's the lesson?" Well, I said, "The lesson is that I always have to prospect. I can't stop, regardless of what my pipeline looks like. If my pipeline has 15 transactions, I cannot stop prospecting. If you get to a point where you're closing a lot of transactions, then you have to start running your business, right? And then you hire somebody to manage some of your transactions so you can take time away from the stuff that isn't income producing. Those are administrative stuff, right? And you want to get to a point in your real estate career where you're making enough money where you're not focused or bogged down with transaction coordinating, with sending out emails, coordinating drip campaigns. Those are things that at some point you want to strive for, or rather strive to delegate. You want to make enough money where you're not bogged down with that. Let someone else handle it so you can spend most of your time working on your business more efficiently, working on the things that matter most, right? That you prioritize, which is income producing, filling up your pipeline, getting in front of more opportunities, because that is really how you're going to excel. If you've ever seen an agent that's extremely successful, and I've seen it many times, there are agents that are really successful, but they're not good agents. They're really not good at, the experience journey with a client, but they're making lots of money. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million+. And you have to ask yourself, you have to pause and ask yourself, why is that individual who is not a good agent, why are they successful at their business? Because they're running their business like a business, right? Now, I'm not justifying that, they shouldn't provide great experience journey to their clients. Obviously, that's part of the business. But the reason why they're successful is because they understand that their day-to-day should be consumed with the cold calling, right? The door knocking, the sending out the mailers, the circle prospecting, open houses. So let's talk about the day-to-day. What should you be doing, right? I think the best thing to do on a day-to-day basis is cold calling. That's number one. And I know that a lot of agents are not comfortable doing it because they're fearful of objections, but you have to just get comfortable and you have to overcome that, right? What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Them saying no, them hanging up on you, maybe they curse at you, who cares? On to the next, right? On to the next. Not everybody's gonna buy into your concept. Not everybody is going to want to have a conversation. But if you call enough, there's going to be that one, that two, or those three people that day that want to talk to you, that are interested in understanding what's going on in the market, that want to know what their home is worth, that may have a brother, a sibling, or someone else that they are acquainted with that want to purchase a property or are looking to sell. You never know who you're going to connect with, right? You never know when is your next transaction coming from. I remember a long time ago flying out to Portugal. I was sitting next to this gentleman, and it's a 6.5 hour flight, so I want to know who's next to me, and I'm sure that whoever is next to you wants to know who you are, right? And we sparked a conversation, and we were both from Newark, and the gentleman owned a butcher shop and a commercial property. The butcher shop was actually inside that commercial property in the north side of Newark. And we really built a great rapport with one another, and he was thinking about selling. He said, you know what? When you come back from Portugal, why don't you reach out to me and let me see, let me give it some thought. I may think of putting my home back on the market in September, October, right? Because he had actually put his house on the market in the past, or the property. Sure enough, I came back from Portugal. I remembered to shoot him a call. I did. And that led to, a conversation that led to a listing appointment that ended up leading to a listing, and then obviously led to approximately about 22, 23, if I'm not mistaken, $1,000 in my pocket. If I didn't spark a conversation with that individual, that passenger, I would have never had that opportunity. And that is why I always use the word create. I created that opportunity. You need to create that opportunity. You need to manifest those opportunities. But we have to create and manifest those opportunities and cultivate on a daily basis, right? Every day, 3-4 hours a day, you should be doing some sort of prospecting. That is what your calendar should be filled with. I don't want to hear that your calendar is filled with you managing transactions for 3 to 4 hours and following up. Yes, following up is part of our responsibility. Transaction management, is part of our responsibility if you haven't delegated it yet. But that shouldn't consume 3-4 hours. That should consume at most an hour to an hour and a half. The next 2 to 3 hours should be consumed with you really focusing on what's going to drive the needle forward in your business. That is the most important thing. That is what your day-to-day should look like. Because if it's not, you're going to fail, right? And if you are successful, if you're one of those agents that have succeeded without prospecting, you have to ask yourself, what have you done to get to a point where you are succeeding? Are you leaning on your sphere of influence? Great, that's great. But at some point, right, you're going to have to rely on prospecting. You're not going to be able to rely so much on your sphere of influence. Now, I know that there's a life-long value to everybody that you close, and I understand that. I'm a big believer in that. But I'm also a big believer that when you run your real estate agent business, right, it's like a funnel. Think of a funnel, right? Where are we getting our opportunities from? Well, open houses, prospecting, cold calling, circle prospecting. That is how I think every real estate agent should really run their business. Because this year, maybe you got a lot of business from your sphere of influence, but next year you may not get as much. So now you have to figure out how to cover some of that ground that you lost, right? So maybe jumping on a lead platform like Zillow, like Realtor.com. Maybe it's doing more open houses. Maybe it's doing more community events, right? Maybe it's farming. And I just did a podcast before about farming. That should be part of your prospecting. What's going on in today's market? There's a lack of what? Inventory, correct? Well, doesn't it make sense for us to go after more listings? It's easier to manage a listing and get it under contract than it is working with a buyer and finding a home for that buyer, right? It's becoming very frustrating if almost 100% of your business is working with buyers. That is why it's important for you to shift. So how do you shift? Well, you have to farm. What areas should I farm? Very simple. The area that you live in. Why? Because it's much easier for you to establish commonality and relatability with someone over the phone that lives in the same exact community that you live in. What's another area that you can focus on? Well, the area that you grew up in. Like, for example, I grew up in Newark, right? I don't live in Newark, but I still have a lot of emotional attachment in Newark. My parents still live there. So do you think it would be easier if I was an agent picking up the phone and cold calling and circle prospecting around Newark? Of course it would, right? Because I have a genuine interest in that town. I grew up there. I'm passionate about Newark, right? The same way most of you who don't live in the area that you grew up in may be passionate about that, that specific town. You still may have some attachment there. Maybe your parents live there. Maybe your brother lives there. Maybe some of your family members live there. Maybe you have a business there. Maybe you frequent businesses there, right? So that's important. Do not underestimate farming. Now, if you're going to farm, I'm a big believer that in order for you to do it the absolute right way for you to achieve success, you have to apply the 9X rule. The 9X rule means that you have to touch people 9 times at minimum. At minimum. How do you do that? Well, very simple. Cold calling, door knocking, sending out mailers, voicemail broadcasts, right? Circle prospecting. Now, if the area that you live in has a very low absorption rate, meaning that there's not a lot of properties that sell on a monthly basis, say there's only 3 or 4 properties that sell on a monthly basis, what can you do from a circle prospecting aspect to get you in front of that same person over and over and over? Well, don't just circle prospect when the property sells. Circle prospect when the home goes on the market, when the property goes under contract, and when the property sells, right? Or when you do an open house, or if there's an open house in the area. Can you circle prospect around an open house that's not yours? Of course you do, right? I wouldn't put a lot of effort into it. I would put more effort into obviously cold calling or circle prospecting around the just listed, under contract, and just sold. I think that will create more opportunities. I think that will help you build rapport with a specific homeowner or specific homeowners a lot faster, right? I think there's a lot more money in doing that versus obviously circle prospecting around open houses. But don't underestimate circle prospecting, right? Or rather farming an area. And you don't need to farm the entire town. Pick 2 or 3 pockets in that town. It's much easier for you to focus on a consistent basis, right? Speaking to the same homeowner over and over and over if you're just focusing on 2 or 3 pockets than it is for you to try to blanket the entire town. Some towns are large. Some towns, have a huge population. You're not going to have the bandwidth nor the marketing dollars for you to do an entire town. So it's important for you to do it efficiently, but also with strategy, right? And you could do multiple towns, right? You could do the town that you live in, and you could do the town that you grew up in. Same thing, like I mentioned before. That's very important. So farming should be part of your day-to-day, right? All these things work, guys. Like, I don't want to hear someone say, oh, it doesn't work for me. It does. It does. You have to build consistency, right? You have to build frequency. And I've used the same story over and over and over, right? It would be like my mother shooting free throws. If she shot 10 free throws, more than likely she's not going to get 1 in. I know that for a fact. Mom, you suck at basketball. However, if my mom shot 100 free throws, I promise you by luck she's going to get 3. Well, it's the same concept. If you cold called, 300-400 people, by luck, you may get 1 or 2 appointments. Just try it, right? What do you think happens if every day you're consistently cold calling? Say every day you're cold calling 50 people, right? And on average, you're getting 5 people on the phone. What do you think the results are going to look like for you if you stay consistent and you give it a try for like 3 to 4 months? Think about it. Do you think you're going to get more listings? At worst, you're going to get listing appointments. At worst. If you don't get those listings when you're at the listing appointment, then that means you have to work on your listing presentation. But that's easy to fix. What's not easy in this business is being disciplined, having commitment, and staying accountable to yourself. Because accountability is a real big problem in our industry. Accountability is a real big problem amongst human beings in general. And everything we do, at the gym, our diets, our relationships with our parents, our spouses, our significant others, our family members, right? That's a big problem, accountability. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, we allow our egos to really self-sabotage what we're trying to accomplish, right? What I want you to do is drop your ego for a second and try things, right? Alex Hormozy says it best. I'm not going to say it word for word, but he says, the pain of not trying is greater than the pain of trying. And it's true. The pain of you not cold calling and working on your business on a daily basis is a lot higher than the pain of success. It's the same thing with the gym, right? What's the pain of not going to the gym? There's two pains, right? Going to the gym every day or consistently every week, right? That's painful, right? It's not, no one's not going to say that it's not. Like doing sit-ups and push-ups and working out, it is painful, right? You leave there, you're sore the next morning, right? It's painful. The pain of getting fat and becoming unhealthy and subtracting 10 to 15 years from your life expectancy, that's a lot more painful. The pain of you not being around your loved ones, your kids, your mom, your dad, right? Cutting your life short, that's painful. The pain of you getting diabetes, being obese, right? That's painful. That is the pain that I don't want. I want the pain of working out. I want the pain of getting healthy. Same thing with real estate. The pain of making 3, 4, 500,000, by the way, I'm speaking from experience, the pain of making that kind of money, that's the type of pain you want. And I'm saying 3, 4, 500,000 because the reality of the majority of real estate agents across the country are not making 3, 4, 500,000 dollars. There are more agents in the U.S. making less than 60,000 than agents making more than 60,000. I think the NAR posted something about a month ago that 92% of agents had done less than 4 transactions. That 8% of agents across the nation had done 4 transactions or more. Why do you think that is? Accountability. That's what it comes down to, right? Not running your business exactly like a business. It's funny. John and I had this conversation the other day, right? Agents expect their buyers and sellers to be loyal to them. And sometimes they're not loyal to their own brokerage, right? And I know I'm drifting a little bit here for a second, but in order for your buyers, your sellers to really be loyal to you, you have to learn that you have to operate like a business. You have to operate like a Walmart. You have to operate like, a Costco, like a Lifetime Fitness. You have to really sit down with yourself and say, you know what? I am a business, right? When you come into Signature Realty, you're not buying into the concept of, being a real estate agent. You're buying into the concept of running your own business. That's really what it should be. What does it take to run a business successfully? Right? That is what you have to figure out. What are some of the things that you need to do from a prospecting standpoint that you feel that will drive your business forward? I don't need you to do 5 or 6 or 7 different things. Master 2 things and really get good at it. Really get good at the consistency piece, the frequency, right? Stay committed to it and see where that leads to. And that's going to lead to other opportunities for you, right? So if your business right now, if you were to audit your business, how many days a week are you really prospecting? How many hours? Like there's a couple of people watching right now. Shout out to Lakeisha, Taj, and Dominic, Rakira. And I know there's other people, I just can't see it. But what does that look like for you? I want you to take a piece of paper, if you can right now, and write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and what's scheduled for you. What are you doing? Outside of showings, I don't care about that. That's working in the business. I'm talking about working on the business. What are you doing to drive more business for yourself? And if that is blank, more so than being filled, then you have a real big issue and you have to make a change right now. Not next week, not next month, not next year. You have to make a change right now. But you have to be aware that there is a change that needs to happen, right? Because all the successful agents in this business, I promise you that they're waking up with a purpose. They're waking up knowing exactly what they need to do today. And they know exactly what they need to do tomorrow. What are you doing? What are you doing? That is the question that you need to ask yourself. What is the change that needs to happen in order for this to, be different for you to be happy, for you to see the results that are gratifying, right? That is important, right? There's a reason why the Claudias, the Benjamins, the Melissa Gonzalez's, the Curlys, the Ana Di Figueiredos, and many, many, many agents out there at Signature and outside of Signature do well. They are working on their business on a consistent basis. That's what they're focused on. They're focused on income producing activities. And that's what you need to focus on. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. Don't forget, if you're watching, kickball is tomorrow, 3 o'clock. If you do not want to participate in playing kickball and you want to be there, you're more than welcome to show up. You just have to register so I know exactly how much food I have to buy. And if you want to bring your kids, your spouse, you're more than welcome to do so as well. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to the Agents Rock podcast.